It's 11:15 in the morning, and the hearing room is packed. Every seat is filled. Cameras line the back wall in both sides. Outside, reporters are waiting for statements. Inside, the air feels dense with attention. Bill Gates sits at the witness table. He's wearing a dark suit, white shirt, no tie. In front of him, a microphone, a glass of water, and a single folder. His hands rest on the table, one on top of the other. He's not moving. The chairman finishes reading the procedural rules, standard language about testimony, accuracy, cooperation. Then he looks at Gates and says, "Thank you for appearing today." Gates nods. "Thank you for having me." The chairman yields the floor. Representative Turner from Michigan takes the first question. He asks about Gates's current role. Gates answers. He says he works in private equity. He says his firm focuses on technology investments. He says he's been in the industry for 15 years. Turner asks about his previous positions. Gates lists them. 2 hedge funds, 1 advisory firm, a brief stint at a consulting group, all standard, all verifiable. Turner asks if Gates has ever worked with government officials. Gates says yes, occasionally, in advisory capacities. He names a few committees, a trade delegation, a forum on financial regulation. Nothing unusual. Turner nods. He yields his time. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is sitting on the left side of the panel. She hasn't said anything yet. Her notepad is in front of her, closed. Her pen is beside it, uncapped. She's watching Gates, but not intently, just watching. Representative Kaplan from New Jersey goes next. She asks about Gates's travel schedule. Gates says he travels frequently for work. She asks if he keeps records. He says his office does. She asks if those records are available. He says they can be made available upon request. Kaplan asks if he attended any international conferences in the past 10 years. Gates says yes. She asks which ones. He names a few. Davos, a summit in Singapore, a finance conference in London. Standard events. Kaplan pauses. Then she asks, "Mr. Gates, are you familiar with the name Jeffrey Epstein?" The room changes. Not loudly, not dramatically, but something shifts. The cameras adjust slightly. Someone in the back row leans forward. Gates doesn't hesitate. He says, "Yes, I'm familiar with the name. Did you ever meet him?" "Yes." "How many times?" Gates pauses. "Not long, but long enough to notice. A few times. I don't recall the exact number." "In what context?" "Professional events. Conferences, receptions, that sort of thing." "Did you ever meet with him privately?" "I may have. Again, I don't recall specifics." Kaplan writes something down. Then she says, "Mr. Gates, last week a set of photographs was released to the media. These photographs were taken at various events between 2010 and 2015. Were you made aware of these photographs?" "Yes." "When?" "When they were released." "Not before?" "No." Kaplan looks at her notes. Then she says, "You appear in some of these photographs." Gates shifts slightly. "I wasn't aware of that until recently. But you do appear in them. If that's what the photographs show, then yes. You don't remember being photographed. I attend many events. Photographs are taken constantly. I don't always know when I'm being photographed." Kaplan nods. She yields her time. AOC uncaps her pen. Slowly. The sound is small but somehow clear in the quiet room. She pulls her notepad closer. Opens it. The page is blank. She writes something at the top. 1 line. Then she looks up. She says, "Mr. Gates." Gates turns toward her. "Yes. How many of these photographs include you?" "I don't know the exact number. Approximately. I've seen 3 or 4 that appear to include me." "Appear to. That shows someone who looks like me. But you're not certain it's you." "I haven't examined them closely." AOC writes something. Then she says, "Have you been provided copies of these photographs?" "My attorney has received them." "But you've seen them." "Yes. And you're still uncertain if the person in them is you." Gates pauses. "The photographs are from a distance. The lighting isn't always clear." "But your attorney believes it's you." "My attorney has advised me that it's likely me." "Yes." AOC sets her pen down. She places both hands flat on the table. Then she says, "Mr. Gates, in how many of these photographs does Jeffrey Epstein also appear?" The room goes quiet. Completely quiet. Gates says, "I don't know. You've seen the photographs." "I haven't counted. But he appears in some of them." "I believe so." "Yes." "More than 1?" "Yes." "More than 2?" Gates reaches for the water. He drinks. Then he sets the glass down and says, "Yes." AOC picks up her pen again. She writes something else. Then she says, "Mr. Gates, these photographs were taken at private events. Is that correct?" "Some were at private events." "Yes." "Not public conferences." "Not all of them." "Were you invited to these private events?" "I assume I was, if I attended them." "You don't remember receiving invitations?" "It was 10 years ago." "But you attended." "If the photographs show me there, then yes." AOC tilts her head slightly. "You don't remember attending?" "I remember attending various events during that period. I don't remember every specific event. But these weren't conferences. These were private gatherings. I attended many gatherings. Private ones. Yes." AOC writes something else. The room is still quiet. Representative Turner is watching her now. So is Kaplan. The chairman has his hands folded on the table in front of him. AOC says, Mr. Gates, when you attended these private events, did you know who else would be there? Gates says, sometimes, not always. Did you know Jeffrey Epstein would be there? I don't recall. You don't recall if you knew he would be present at events you attended with him? I knew he was involved in the social scene at that time. It wasn't unusual to encounter him. But you don't remember specifically knowing he'd be at these events? No. AOC leans back slightly. She's looking at Gates, but her expression hasn't changed. She says, Mr. Gates, in 2014, were you aware of any media coverage regarding Jeffrey Epstein? Gates shifts in his seat. I may have been. In 2014, there were multiple news articles about Jeffrey Epstein. There were legal proceedings. There were public records. Were you aware of any of that? I may have seen some coverage, but you continued attending events where he was present. I don't know if I attended events after 2014. Some of the photographs are dated 2015. Gates pauses. Then I may have. You may have attended events with Jeffrey Epstein in 2015, after the media coverage in 2014, if that's what the photographs show. AOC writes something else on her notepad. Then she says, Mr. Gates, who organized these events? I don't know. You attended events and you don't know who organized them? These were informal gatherings. I was often invited by mutual acquaintances. Which acquaintances? I don't recall. You don't recall who invited you to private events with Jeffrey Epstein. It was a long time ago. But you remember attending. I remember attending various events. I don't remember specific invitations. The chairman clears his throat. AOC glances at him. He doesn't say anything. She looks back at Gates. She says, Mr. Gates, do you have a calendar from that period? My office may have records. Have you reviewed them? Not in detail. Why not? I haven't had reason to. These photographs were released last week. You've been called to testify today, and you haven't reviewed your calendar from the period in question. Gates says, I've reviewed some records, but not your calendar. Not comprehensively. AOC picks up her pen. She taps it once on the notepad. Then she says, Mr. Gates, when these photographs were released, did anyone contact you? My attorney contacted me. Anyone else? I received some media inquiries. From whom? Various outlets. Did you respond? No. Why not? On advice of counsel. Did anyone from your firm contact you? Gates pauses. Yes. Who? My partners. What did they say? They wanted to understand the situation. What did you tell them? I told them I was reviewing the matter. AOC writes something else. Then she says, did anyone from outside your firm contact you? Gates doesn't answer immediately. He's looking at the folder in front of him. He hasn't opened it once. His hand moves toward it, then stops. AOC waits. Gates says, I received a few calls. From whom? Associates. People I've worked with. What did they want? To check in. About the photographs. Yes. What did you tell them? I told them I was handling it. AOC sets her pen down. She places both hands flat on the table again. Then she says, Mr. Gates, did any of those associates also appear in the photographs? The room freezes. Someone in the back row stops moving entirely. The cameras are completely still. Gates says, I don't know. You've seen the photographs. You've spoken with these associates. And you don't know if they appear in the photographs. I haven't examined every face in every photograph. But you've spoken with them about the photographs. Yes. So they're aware they might appear in them. I assume they're aware the photographs exist. Because they were there. Gates pauses. I don't know who was there. But they called you. Yes. To discuss photographs from events they may have attended. To discuss the situation generally. AOC picks up her pen again. She holds it vertically, tip resting on the notepad. She says, how many people called you? I don't have an exact count. Approximately. Several. More than 3? Yes. More than 5? Gates doesn't answer. Mr. Gates doesn't answer. Mr. More than 5 people who may have attended these events called you after the photographs were released? Yes. Did any of them ask you not to discuss the photographs publicly? The question hangs in the air. Gates is staring at AOC now. His hand is back on the folder. He says, not in those words, but they expressed concern about the situation. Yes. About the photographs being public. Yes. Did anyone suggest that you declined to testify today? The chairman shifts in his seat. Representative Kaplan is leaning forward now. Gates says, no one suggested that, but someone mentioned this hearing. It was referenced, yes. By whom? I don't recall. You don't recall who mentioned your congressional testimony. It came up in conversation, with multiple people, possibly, but you don't recall who. Gates doesn't answer. AOC leans forward. Not much. Just enough. She says, Mr. Gates, before these photographs were released, were you aware they existed? Gates says, no. You had no knowledge that photographs from these events existed. No. But you attended the events. Yes. And it's normal for photographs to be taken at such events. Yes. But you never thought about whether photographs existed. I didn't think about it, no. Not even after the media coverage in 2014. Gates pauses. No. Not even after the legal proceedings in 2015. No. AOC writes something on her notepad. Then she says, Mr. Gates, did anyone ever contact you about these photographs before they were released? Gates says, no. No one mentioned that photographs from these events might surface? No. Not your associates, not your partners, no one. No. AOC sets her pen down. She looks at the notepad. Then she looks up. She says, Mr. Gates, when did you first learn that Jeffrey Epstein had died? Gates says, when it was reported in the news. In 2019. Yes. Did you have any contact with him between 2015 and 2019? No. You're certain? Yes. No meetings, no calls, no emails? No. Did you have any contact with any of his associates during that period? Gates pauses. I may have. You may have had contact with Jeffrey Epstein's associates between 2015 and 2019. I had contact with many people. Some of them may have known him, but you can't name them, not without reviewing records. Have you reviewed those records? No. Why not? I haven't been asked to. OOC picks up her pen again. She writes one more line on her notepad. Then she says, Mr. Gates, I'd like to enter a document into the record. The chairman looks at her. What document? A photograph. One of the recently released photographs. She reaches into a folder beside her. She pulls out a printed image. It's not large, maybe 8 by 10. She holds it but doesn't show it to the room yet. She says, this photograph was taken in January 2015. It shows a gathering at a private residence. There are approximately 12 people visible in the photograph. Gates is watching her now. His hand is on the folder in front of him, but he's not opening it. OOC continues. Mr. Gates, you appear in this photograph. You're standing near the center of the group. To your left is Jeffrey Epstein. To your right is someone whose face is partially visible. The photograph is time-stamped January 17th. Do you remember this event? Gates says, I'd need to see the photograph. OOC holds it up. Not high enough for the cameras to capture it clearly, but high enough for Gates to see. The room is silent. Everyone is looking at the photograph, even though most can't see it clearly. Gates looks at it. His expression doesn't change. Then he says, I don't remember this specific event, but you appear in the photograph. If that's me, then I was there. It is you. Your attorney has confirmed it. Gates doesn't respond. OOC says, this photograph was taken 3 months after a civil case involving Jeffrey Epstein was settled. That settlement was public record. It was covered in multiple media outlets. And you don't remember attending an event with him 3 months later. Gates says, I don't remember every event I attended. But this wasn't a conference. This was a private residence. I attended many private events. With 12 people. Yes. One of whom was Jeffrey Epstein. Yes. OOC sets the photograph down on the table in front of her. Face up. The cameras try to zoom in, but they can't get a clear view. She says, Mr. Gates, who else is in this photograph? Gates says, I don't know. You were there. You don't know who else was there? I don't recognize everyone in the photograph, but you recognize some people. I may recognize some faces. Which ones? I'd need to review the photograph more carefully. You're looking at it now. I can't identify everyone from this distance. OOC picks up the photograph. She stands. She walks around the table. The room is completely silent. She walks toward Gates and places the photograph on the table in front of him. Then she walks back to her seat and sits down. She says, now you can see it clearly. Who else is in this photograph? Gates looks down at the photograph. He doesn't touch it. He just looks. 10 seconds pass. 15. Then he says, I recognize 2 people. Who? I'd prefer not to name them without their consent. They're in a photograph that's already been released publicly. I understand, but I'd still prefer not to name them. OOC writes something on her notepad. Then she says, are these people you've spoken with since the photographs were released? Gates doesn't answer. Mr. Gates, are the 2 people you recognize in this photograph among the people who called you last week? The silence is absolute. Gates is staring at the photograph. His hands are on the table, one on each side of it. OOC says, Mr. Gates, did the people in this photograph contact you before you testified today? Gates looks up. He looks at OOC, then at the chairman, then at the cameras. His mouth opens slightly. And then he says, I'd like to consult with my attorney before answering that question. The chairman says, we can arrange a brief recess, but OOC interrupts. She says, Mr. Chairman, one more question. The chairman pauses. He looks at OOC, then he nods. OOC looks directly at Gates. She says, Mr. Gates, when these people contacted you, did any of them mention other photographs? Photographs that haven't been released yet? Gates doesn't move. His eyes are wide. His hands are still on the table, one on each side of the photograph. The cameras are rolling. The room is frozen, and no one says a word.